The cargo ship Moonlight Wanderer moved slowly through the darkness of space. It was not a beautiful ship. The paint was old and faded. The engines made strange sounds that worried the engineer, but it was home to the three people who lived inside it. Captain Park sat in his chair on the bridge. He was a man in his middle 30s with tired eyes and rough hands. He had been flying ships since he was 20 years old. Before cargo runs, he had been a rescue pilot. He had saved many lives in those days, but rescue work paid poorly, and he had debts to pay. So now he carried boxes and crates from one colony to another. Beside him checked the engine readings on her screen. She was the ship's engineer, and she knew every pipe and wire in the Moonlight Wanderer. She was a serious woman who rarely smiled but trusted her completely. When she said something was wrong with the ship, it was wrong. When she said they could make it, they could make it. At the communications station sat. He was young, barely 22, fresh from the Space Academy. This was his first real job. He was eager and nervous and asked too many questions, but he was good at his work, and that was what mattered. They were 3 days away from the frontier colony of Nu when the signal came. Sat up straight in his chair. His eyes went wide. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange." Turned to look at him. "What kind of strange?" "A distress signal, sir, but it's old, very old." Frowned and walked over to look at screen. "How old?" Ran his fingers over the controls. Numbers and symbols filled his display. "The signal pattern is ancient, maybe 200 years old, maybe older. It's been running on emergency loop all this time." Stood up and walked to the front window. Outside, there was nothing but stars and the endless black of space. Somewhere out there, someone had called for help a very long time ago. "Where is it coming from?" he asked. "A dead system about 6 hours from here. There's a dying red star and nothing else. No planets, no stations, just empty space." Paused. "And the wreck." "Wreck?" "Yes, sir. Long-range sensors show something big floating near the star. A ship, maybe, or a station. It's hard to tell from this distance." Shook her head. "Captain, we don't have fuel for detours. We're already running tight on this delivery." "I know," said quietly. "And that system is dangerous. Dying stars have unstable gravity wells. We could get pulled in." "I know that too." Looked between them. "Should I ignore the signal, sir?" Was silent for a long moment. He thought about his old days as a rescue pilot. He thought about all the times he had flown into danger to save strangers. He thought about the people who had died because help came too late. The signal was 200 years old. Whoever sent it was long dead. There was no one to save. But still, "Change course," said. "We're going to take a look." Sighed heavily. "This is not wise." "Probably not," he agreed. "But I need to see, I need to know." The Moonlight Wanderer turned slowly in the void and began its journey toward the dying star. 6 hours later they arrived. The red star hung in space like a bloody eye. It was old and tired, giving off weak light and dangerous radiation. Had put up the ship's shields, but she warned that they could not stay long. And there, floating in the star's dim glow, was the wreck. It was enormous, bigger than anything had ever seen. It was not human-made. The design was strange and organic, like the skeleton of some great sea creature. Metal and bone seemed to mix together. Towers rose from it like broken fingers reaching for stars they would never touch. "What is that?" whispered. "Alien," said. Her voice was flat but could hear the fear underneath. "Very old alien, this design. I don't recognize it. It's not from any species we know." Stared at the wreck. It was beautiful in a terrible way, beautiful and wrong and somehow sad. "Any life signs?" he asked. Checked his sensors. His face went pale. "Sir, yes, there's something alive in there." "Survivors, after 200 years." "Not survivors, something else, something big." Swallowed hard. "Very, very big." The sensors showed a heat signature deep inside the wreck. Something was sleeping in there. Something with a heartbeat slow enough to count in minutes instead of seconds. Something that had been dreaming in the dark for centuries. Grab's arm. We need to leave now. Wanted to agree. Every instinct told him to run, but something held him in place. Curiosity, duty, foolishness. He did not know which. Just a closer look, he said. Then we go. The Moonlight Wanderer moved closer to the wreck. The alien structure filled their window, blocking out the stars. Up close, they could see details. Strange symbols carved into the metal, holes that might have been windows, a great opening that might have been a door. And inside the opening, something moved. Saw it first, Captain. It came out of the wreck like a nightmare taking shape. It was a creature of impossible size, 300 meters long, maybe more. Its body was serpentine, covered in scales that shone like black mirrors. Great wings unfolded from its sides, each one big enough to wrap around the Moonlight Wanderer twice. Its eyes opened, and they burned with bioluminescent fire, green and gold and hungry. It was a dragon, an alien dragon from the depths of space. And it was looking right at them. The creature opened its mouth and roared. There was no sound in space, but somehow they felt it. The ship shook. Warning lights flashed. Alarms screamed. Full power to engines, shouted, get us out of here. Ran to her station. Her fingers flew over the controls. The engines roared to life. But the dragon was faster. It came at them like death itself. Its claws reached out, each one longer than a shuttle. The first strike hit their port side and tore through the outer hull like paper. Air began to vent into space. Ceiling breach, yelled, we've lost cargo bay too. The dragon struck again and again. It wrapped its body around the ship like a snake squeezing its prey. Metal groaned, systems failed, lights flickered. Was broadcasting on all frequencies. This is the cargo vessel Moonlight Wanderer. We surrender. We are not hostile. Please stop. The dragon did not stop. Watched the creature through the window. Its eye was right there, as big as a house, staring at him with ancient intelligence. This was not a mindless beast. This was something old and smart and very, very angry. Why, whispered, why are you doing this? The dragon's eye watched him. There was no mercy in it, only hunger that had been sleeping for 200 years. His voice cut through the chaos. Captain, I have an idea. If we vent Cargo Bay 3, the explosive decompression might push us free. Do it. We'll lose everything. All our cargo will have nothing. Do it anyway, now. Hit the controls. The cargo bay doors blew open. Crates and boxes flew out into space. The force pushed the ship backward, tearing it free from the dragon's grip. The Moonlight Wanderer spun wildly, held onto his chair, fell to the floor, kept her hands on the controls, fighting to stabilize them. Behind them, the dragon paused. It watched its prey escape with those burning eyes. Then it followed. It's coming after us, reported, his voice shaking. It's faster than us. It will catch us in 3 minutes. Closed his eyes. They could not outrun it. They could not fight it. They could not hide from it. 3 minutes until death. And then, as if the universe was not done with its cruelty, the dragon did something unexpected. It appeared directly in front of them and opened its great mouth. The bridge viewport exploded inward. The dragon's head came through, filling the entire space with darkness and scales and teeth. And it breathed in deeply, taking in the scent of the humans inside. Stood frozen, waiting for the end. But the end did not come. Something changed in the dragon's ancient eyes. Something flickered there. Recognition, confusion, and something that looked almost like wonder. The creature stopped, and in the sudden silence heard it make a sound. Not a roar, not a growl. A whimper, like a lost child finding something familiar in the dark. The dragon's head filled the bridge. Its scales scraped against the broken metal of the viewport. Its breath came in great waves, hot and strange, smelling of old stars and forgotten places. Each exhale fogged the air and made the crew shiver. Stood perfectly still. He was directly in front of the creature's massive nostril. He could feel the pull of air as it breathed in, sampling his scent like a wolf studying its prey. Behind him was pressed against the wall. The young man's face was white with terror. His lips moved in silent prayer, had her hand on a fire extinguisher, as if that small thing could do anything against a monster 300 meters long. The dragon breathed in again, its great eye, bigger than its entire body, focused on him. The pupil was a slit of black in a sea of burning gold. Intelligence lived in that eye. Ancient, alien intelligence that had seen stars born and die. Then the whimpering sound came again, low and sad and confused. The dragon pulled its head back slightly, not attacking, not retreating, just looking. "Nobody move," said quietly. "Nobody do anything." "What is it doing?" whispered. "I don't know." The creature tilted its head like a curious dog. Its nostrils flared once more. Then it made a new sound deep in its throat. Not a threat, something else, something almost like a question. Took a slow step forward. "Captain, no," hissed. He ignored her. Some instinct was guiding him now, something deeper than fear or logic. He walked toward the dragon's face until he could have reached out and touched its scales. "Hello," he said softly. "My name is, we don't want to hurt you." The dragon blinked. Its inner eyelid slid across first, thin and milky, then the outer lid followed. When it opened its eye again, something had changed. The hunger was still there, but it had been pushed aside by something stronger. The creature breathed out slowly. The warm air washed over like a gentle wind. Then it began to withdraw its head from the bridge. Metal screamed as the dragon pulled back through the hole it had made. Emergency barriers slammed down, sealing the breach. The bridge was suddenly quiet except for the hiss of damaged systems and the pounding of 3 human hearts. Collapsed into his chair. "What just happened?" "I don't know," said again. He was staring at the sealed breach, trying to understand. Ran to her console. "The dragon is still outside, it's just floating there, it's not attacking." They watched through the secondary cameras. The great creature had coiled itself around the damaged ship, but gently now. Its wings were folded. Its eyes were closed. It seemed to be waiting. "It recognized you," said slowly, "or recognized something about you." "That's impossible. I've never seen anything like this creature before." "Not you specifically." His mind was working fast. She was an engineer, she solved problems. "Your scent, it recognized your scent, or rather human scent." Looked up. How would an alien dragon know what humans smell like? Nobody had an answer. The minutes passed. The dragon did not move. The moonlight wanderer drifted in space, held loosely in the creature's coils, made a decision. "I'm going out there." "You're insane," said flatly. "Maybe, but that thing could crush us like an egg if it wanted to. It's not doing that. It stopped for a reason. I need to find out why." "And how exactly will you communicate with a giant alien dragon?" Had no answer, but he was already moving toward the airlock. The walk through the damaged corridors was difficult. Power was failing in several sections. Some passages were blocked by debris. Others had no gravity, forcing to pull himself along by hand. He finally reached the main airlock and put on his spacesuit. "Captain, please reconsider," his voice said through his helmet radio. "Keep the channel open. If something goes wrong, take the ship and run." "We can't leave you." "That's in order." He opened the outer door and stepped into space. The dragon was right there. Its body curved around the ship in a protective circle. Up close, could see details he had missed before. The scales were not just black. They held colors inside them, deep blues and purples that shifted like oil on water. Scars marked the creature's hide, old wounds from old battles. Some of them looked surgical, too precise to be natural. activated his suit thrusters, and moved closer. The dragon's eye opened. It watched him approach but made no threatening move. "I don't know if you can understand me," said, "but I want to help. Can you understand? Help." The creature blinked. Then something amazing happened. Light began to pulse beneath the dragon's scales. Bioluminescent patterns rippled across its body, forming shapes that almost looked like images. Saw what might have been stars, a planet, small figures that could have been people. "Are you seeing this?" Recording everything, the creature is trying to communicate. The images changed. Now saw a ship small and strange. It was damaged, drifting near a different planet. And near the ship there was a smaller dragon, much smaller, clearly young. The young dragon was hurt. Blood drifted from its wounds. Then another figure appeared, a small figure, 2 arms, 2 legs, standing upright. A human. The human moved toward the wounded young dragon, not running away, not attacking, moving closer to help. His breath caught in his throat. The images continued, the human tending to the dragon's wounds, feeding it, staying with it through long days and nights. The young dragon growing stronger, trust building between 2 impossible creatures from different worlds. Then the human leaving. Their ship repaired, they had to go, but before they left they touched the dragon's face gently, a goodbye between friends. The last image was the human ship flying away, the young dragon watching it go, watching until it disappeared among the stars. The light faded. The dragon looked at with ancient, sorrowful eyes. "You remember," whispered. "After all this time your kind remembers." The dragon made that soft sound again, that whimper of recognition and loss and something like hope. Reached out his gloved hand. Slowly, carefully, he touched the dragon's snout. The scales were warm despite the cold of space. Beneath them, he could feel the pulse of a heart that had been beating for centuries. "What happened to you?" he asked. "Why are you here alone?" More images came, faster now, darker. War, ships fighting in space, dragons burning, an enemy whose face was hidden, whose technology was terrible and efficient, the colony dying, dragons falling one by one. Then this dragon, the last one, fleeing, hiding in the wreck of its home, going to sleep in the darkness, hopping to outlast its enemies, hoping something would come. Sending a signal into the void, a signal in frequencies it remembered from long ago, human frequencies, because once a human had shown kindness, and that memory had been passed down through generations, encoded in their very blood. The scent of humans meant safety. The scent of humans meant help. "You've been waiting for us," said. "All this time you've been waiting for humans to find you." The dragon pressed its snout gently against his palm. Its eye closed. A rumble moved through its body that might have been a purr or might have been a sob. Said through his radio, "We're not leaving. Captain, this creature needs our help. Something is wrong with it. I don't know what yet, but we're going to find out." His voice was hesitant. "We're just a cargo ship. We don't have medical equipment for humans, let alone alien dragons." "Then we'll figure it out somehow." He looked into the dragon's opening eye. "We're going to help you, I promise." The dragon's light patterns shifted. They formed a simple shape now, not a story, just a symbol. It took a moment to recognize it. A heart. He floated in the void, one small human beside a creature from legend, and made a silent vow. Whatever it took, he would keep his promise. The dragon had waited 200 years for help to come. Would not let that waiting be in vain. He began to examine the dragon's body more closely, looking for wounds, for damage, for anything that might explain its pain. The creature allowed his inspection, turning slowly so he could see different parts of its massive form. And then he found it. Near the dragon's spine, hidden beneath overlapping scales, there was something that should not have been there. A device of some kind, metal and pulsing with faint light. It was embedded in the creature's flesh, cables running deep into its body. I see something, reported. Alien technology. It's attached to the dragon or inside it, I can't tell. Can you describe it? It looks like a parasite, a machine parasite. The dragon shuddered when he touched near the device. Pain. Even after centuries, it still caused pain. This is what's killing you, isn't it? Said softly. The dragon's lights pulsed once, a confirmation. Someone had hurt this creature. Someone had embedded a weapon in its body and left it to die slowly. And despite that wound, despite centuries of suffering, the dragon had held onto hope. Hope that the humans would come. Hope that they would remember kindness, even across the vast distance of time. Felt something shift inside his chest, anger at whoever had done this, determination to make it right, and something else, something that might have been the beginning of friendship. Hold on, he told the dragon. We're going to get that thing out of you. I don't know how yet, but we will. The dragon's great eye looked at him. Trust lived in that gaze now. Trust bought with the memory of a stranger's compassion 200 years ago. Turned and began moving back toward the ship. He had work to do. The crew gathered in the small medical bay of the Moonlight Wanderer. The room was not designed for surgery. It was meant for bandaging cuts and treating minor burns, but now it had become their planning center for something far more complicated. Had displayed all the data they had collected on the main screen. Images of the parasitic device showed clearly against the dragon's dark scales. Readings indicated energy patterns and biological connections that none of them fully understood. The device is buried about 2 meters into the creature's body, explained. It's wrapped around part of its spine. There are cables extending into its nervous system. Studied the images. Can we remove it? Theoretically, yes, but practically, shook her head. We would need precise tools, medical knowledge we don't have, and cooperation from a 300-meter-long dragon that could kill us by accident just by moving too fast. The dragon wants this thing out. It will cooperate. How can you be sure? Because it's been waiting 200 years for someone to help. It's not going to stop trusting us now. Raised his hand like a student in class. I've been analyzing the signal the dragon was broadcasting, the one that brought us here. And it wasn't just a general distress call. It was specifically targeting human frequencies, old frequencies from early human space exploration. The dragon must have learned them from that astronaut centuries ago. It remembered them perfectly all this time. The weight of that truth settled over the room. A creature in pain, alone in the darkness, calling out in the only language it associated with hope, human language. What about the wreck? Asked. We should explore it. Maybe there's something inside that can help. Considered this. The ship's sensors show breathable atmosphere in parts of the structure. The dragons must have needed air too. We could go in without full suits if we're careful. Then let's go, all 3 of us. The dragon seems calm now, so the ship should be safe for a while. They prepared quickly. Emergency oxygen masks in case the air turned bad. Flashlights because the wreck had no power. Tools that might be useful for anything they found. And weapons, small sidearms, though doubted they would help against anything that lived in a place like this. The shuttle bay was damaged but functional. They took the small transport pod that the Moonlight Wanderer carried for short trips. It was cramped with 3 people inside, but it would get them to the wreck. As they approached, the dragon uncoiled enough to let them pass. Its great eye watched them go with something that looked like gratitude. It really trusts us, said quietly. We haven't given it reason not to, replied. The wreck loomed larger as they got closer. From outside, it had looked like a broken ship, but inside it was clearly something more. This had been a home, a colony. Thousands of dragons had lived here once. They found an opening large enough for their pod and guided it inside. The darkness swallowed them immediately. Only their flashlights cut through the black. Air is good, reported, checking her scanner. thin but breathable, temperature is low but manageable. They climbed out of the pod and stood on what might have been a floor or might have been a wall. The scale of everything was wrong for humans. Doorways were massive. Corridors were wide enough to fly through. Everything was designed for creatures much bigger than people. "This way," said, picking a direction at random. They walked for what felt like hours. The wreck was a maze of chambers and passages. Some rooms were empty. Others held things they could not identify, machines that no longer worked, containers filled with substances that had turned to dust, and bones, dragon bones, scattered and forgotten. "A massacre happened here," said, her voice heavy. "The dragon showed me images, a war, an enemy that hunted them." Who would do this?" "I don't know. The dragon didn't show their faces." They continued deeper into the wreck. The air grew warmer. There was light ahead, faint and blue. The chamber they entered was different from the others. It was smaller, more personal. Walls were covered in carved symbols and glowing crystals that still held power after all these years. In the center of the room stood a pedestal, and on the pedestal rested a single object. A book, or something like a book. Pages made of thin metal, covered in writing that shifted and changed as they watched. "Some kind of record," said, reaching for it. "Careful," warned. Touched the book. It pulsed with light and then began to project images into the air. The same kind of images the dragon made with its bioluminescence, but clearer and more detailed. They saw the dragon's history. Once long ago, the void serpents had been guardians of the space lanes. They protected travelers of all species. They asked for nothing in return except respect and peace. Their kind was ancient, older than most civilizations in the galaxy. They had seen empires rise and fall. But then came the hunters. The images showed them now. Tall beings in dark armor, their faces hidden behind masks that showed no emotion. They were collectors. They wanted the dragons for their scales, their blood, their bioluminescent organs. They wanted to take them apart and use them. The war was brutal and one-sided. The hunters had weapons that the dragons could not match. One by one, the great serpents fell. The colony tried to flee. They ran to the edges of known space, to this dying star, hopping to hide. But the hunters followed. The final battle was shown in terrible detail. Dragons fighting and dying. The colony breaking apart. And in the chaos, a hunter ship getting close enough to fire something at the last surviving dragon. A small device that buried itself in the creature's spine. A tracking device. A slow poison. A promise that even if this dragon escaped, it would eventually die. The last image showed the dragon fleeing into the wreck, going to sleep, setting its signal to broadcast forever. Hopping help would come before death did. Then the book went dark. Wiped his eyes. Those monsters, they hunted them to extinction for parts. "Not extinction," said firmly. "One survived, and we're going to make sure it stays that way." Was examining the book more closely. "There's more information here. Medical information, I think, about dragon biology. This might tell us how to remove the device safely." "Can you read it?" "Not directly, but if I can interface it with our ship's computer, maybe we can translate some of it." They took the book with them. The walk back to the pod felt shorter, driven by purpose. When they emerged from the wreck, the dragon was waiting for them. Climbed out of the pod and floated toward the great creature. "We found something, a record of your people, and information that might help us save you." The dragon's lights pulsed with colors, hope and fear, and something that might have been prayer. "We know what happened to you. We know who did this, the hunters." His voice hardened. "They're gone now, right? They must be gone or they would have come for you long ago." The dragon's lights formed an image. The hunter ships burning, their empire collapsing, time and karma catching up with them at last. They were extinct now, destroyed by the same greed that had driven them to genocide. "Justice," said quietly, "even if it came too late." Back on the Moonlight Wanderer, worked through the night. She connected the alien book to their computer and ran translation programs. Most of it remained unreadable, but some parts began to make sense. The device is a hunter weapon, she explained to the others. It was designed to slowly drain the dragon's life force, but it wasn't built for a creature this strong. The dragon has been fighting it for 2 centuries. It's weakened but still alive. Can we remove it? According to this, yes. The device has a core that controls everything. If we can cut the power to that core, the cables will release on their own. But the core is deep inside the dragon's body. We'll need to cut through scales and muscle to reach it. Thought about this. The dragon will let us, I'm sure of it. There's more. Once the device is removed, the dragon should heal quickly. Their kind has remarkable regeneration. But during the procedure it will be in extreme pain. If it panics, if it moves too much. It could kill us by accident, finished. Yes. They sat in silence. The risk was enormous. They were not doctors, they were not soldiers. They were just 3 people on a cargo ship at the edge of known space. But outside their ship, a creature was dying. A creature that had trusted humans with its life because of a kindness shown centuries ago. Looked at his crew. I won't order you to do this. If you want to leave, I understand. Snorted, don't be stupid. I didn't learn all this just to run away. Swallowed hard but nodded. I'm scared, but I'm staying. Felt warmth spread through his chest, pride in these people, gratitude for their courage. Then we do this tomorrow, get some rest. We're going to need all our strength. That night dreamed of the human astronaut from long ago, a stranger whose name had been lost to time, a person who had found a wounded creature and chosen to help instead of fear. In the dream, the astronaut turned and smiled at him. It's your turn now, they said. Woke with tears on his face and determination in his heart. Tomorrow they would save a dragon. Or they would die trying. The red star hung in space, casting its dying light across the void. Below it, a small cargo ship sat motionless beside a creature from legend. 3 humans prepared for the most important work of their lives. Checked his suit one final time. They had modified it for this task, adding extra thruster fuel and mounting tools on the arms. Had done the same with hers. Would stay on the ship, monitoring their life signs and the dragon's condition. Communications check, said. Receiving you clearly, replied. His voice was steady but could hear the tension underneath. Medical supplies loaded, cutting tools charged, translation program ready, ran through her list. We're as prepared as we're going to get. Then let's not waste any more time. They exited through the airlock and floated toward the dragon. The creature was awake and watching them. Its bioluminescent patterns pulsed slowly, creating images of trust and hope. It knew what they were about to do. It understood the risk. And it was grateful. Reached the dragon's side and placed his hand against its scales. The warmth passed through his glove, comforting and strange. We're going to help you now, he said, but you need to stay still. No matter how much it hurts, you need to stay still. Can you do that? The dragon's lights flickered in what might have been a nod. Its great body relaxed, settling into a position that exposed the wound on its back. The parasitic device was visible between 2 large scales. From here, could see the cables extending from it, burrowing into the dragon's flesh. The metal pulsed with faint red light, still working after 200 years to poison its host. Starting the procedure, said. She moved into position with the cutting tools. The first challenge was the scales. Dragon scales were harder than steel, designed to protect against the vacuum of space and the attacks of predators. Tried her cutting laser, but it barely scratched the surface. No good, she reported. These scales are too strong for our tools. Thought quickly, can the dragon help move the scales aside? He explained to the creature what they needed. The dragon understood. With careful control, it flexed muscles beneath its hide. Two scales near the wound shifted apart, creating a gap wide enough for a human to pass through. Incredible, breathed. It's helping us get inside. Stay focused, reminded her. We don't know how long it can hold that position. Squeeze through the gap between the scales. Inside, the dragon's flesh was pale and soft, nothing like the armored exterior. She could see the cables now, dark lines spreading outward from the central device. I'm at the wound site. The device is about half a meter deep. I'll need to cut through tissue to reach it. Do it carefully. Activated her smaller cutting tool, one designed for precision work. She began to slice through the dragon's flesh, making a careful incision around the device. The dragon shuddered. It felt that, reported from the ship. Heart rate increasing, stress hormones rising. Keep going, said. We can't stop now. Worked as fast as she could without being careless. Blood welled up from the incision, strange blood that glowed faintly blue. She pushed deeper, following the device's shape with her tool. I can see the core. It's wrapped around a nerve cluster. That's why it causes so much pain. Can you cut the power? I think so. There's a conduit on the side. If I sever it, the device should shut down. She positioned her tool. One cut, one chance. If she missed, if she hit the wrong thing, the dragon might die, or it might thrash in agony and kill them all. Her hand was steady. She cut. The device flickered. Its red light stuttered, then died. The cables that had been rigid and invasive suddenly went slack. Power's down. The cables are releasing. Outside, the dragon's body trembled. Its mouth opened in a silent scream. Pain beyond imagining was flowing through it as the foreign object finally lost its grip on its nerves. Hold still, pleaded. Please, just a little longer. The dragon's eye found him. Agony blazed in that golden gaze, but beneath the pain was trust. The creature was fighting against every instinct to thrash and flee. It was holding still because a human asked it to. Pulled out the device. It came free with a wet sound, trailing dead cables behind it. She held it up, this thing that had been killing the dragon for centuries. It was smaller than her forearm, ugly and cruel. It's out, the device is out. The dragon collapsed. Its massive body went limp, drifting in space. For one terrible moment thought they had killed it, that the shock had been too much. Then he saw the wound. It was closing. Right before his eyes, the flesh was knitting itself back together. The dragon's regeneration, suppressed for so long by the device, was finally free to work. It's healing, said, his voice full of wonder. The readings are incredible, tissue regeneration at a rate I've never seen before. Climbed out from between the scales, her suit covered in blue blood. She floated toward exhaustion clear in her movements. We did it, she said. We actually did it. Caught her arm to steady her. You did it. That was the finest surgical work I've ever seen. I'm an engineer, not a doctor. Today you were both. They waited beside the dragon as it healed. Hours passed. The wound closed completely, leaving only a faint scar. Color returned to the creature's scales. The bioluminescent patterns grew brighter, healthier. Finally, the dragon's eye opened. There was no more pain in that gaze, only gratitude so deep it was almost overwhelming. The creature turned its great head toward the humans who had saved it. Lights bloomed across its body, not images this time, pure color, joy made visible. The dragon sang. There was no sound in space, but they felt it anyway. A vibration that passed through their suits, through their bones, through their hearts. A song of thankfulness and freedom and life renewed. Felt tears on his face. He couldn't have stopped them if he tried. You're welcome, he whispered. You're so welcome. The dragon moved closer. Gently, so gently for something so massive, it wrapped itself around the moonlight wanderer. Not in threat this time, in embrace. I think we just made a friend, said over the radio. his voice cracking with emotion. "More than a friend," replied. The creature's lights formed new images, a promise, a vow. It showed the humans their ship, but no longer alone. It showed a shadow moving beside them, protecting them, guarding them through the dangerous spaces between stars. The dragon was pledging itself to them, to humanity, to the species that had shown kindness not once but twice across the vast gulf of time. "You don't owe us anything," said. "We helped because it was right, not because we wanted payment." The dragon's response was gentle but firm. The images repeated: protection, guidance, friendship that would last until the stars themselves grew cold. This was not payment. This was choice. The dragon wanted to be near humans. It wanted to repay the debt that could never truly be repaid. Understood. Some gifts could not be refused without causing insult. "Then we accept," he said, "and we're honored." The dragon's joy pulsed through them again, that silent song of happiness that made their hearts soar. Later, back on the ship, the crew sat together in the small common room. They were exhausted but unable to sleep. Too much had happened. Too much had changed. "What do we do now?" asked. "We've lost all our cargo, we have no money, our ship is damaged." "We deliver our report to Nu," said. "We tell them what we found, and we hope they believe us." "They won't believe us," said. "No one's going to believe a cargo crew found an alien dragon and saved it with homemade surgery. They might have to believe us." Pointed to the window. Outside, the dragon was swimming through space beside them, its massive body catching the light of the distant star. It was beautiful in a way that words could not capture, terrible and wonderful and impossibly real. "We're bringing proof." Actually laughed, something had rarely heard from her. "I suppose we are." Was looking at the dragon with something like wonder. "Do you think there are more dragons, I mean, hidden somewhere waiting to be found?" "The record said this one was the last of its kind," reminded him. "But records can be wrong. Maybe there are eggs somewhere, sleeping dragons in other wrecks. We could look for them." Considered this. It was a wild idea, a crazy idea, the kind of idea that could get them killed 100 different ways. But it was also the kind of idea that made life worth living. "One thing at a time," he said. "First we heal, then we repair the ship, then we'll see." Outside, the dragon performed a slow roll, its wings catching starlight. It seemed to be playing now, enjoying movement without pain for the first time in centuries. The humans watched in silence, sharing a moment of peace that none of them had expected to find. They had come to this dead system, looking for the source of an old signal. They had found something far more precious. They had found hope. And hope, as they were learning, could change everything. The frontier colony of Nu filled the viewport as the Moonlight Wanderer approached. It was a modest settlement, a cluster of domes and towers on a rocky moon. Perhaps 50,000 people lived there, trying to build a future on the edge of known space. Today, they were about to meet their first dragon. "All stations are hailing us," reported. "Military, civilian, everyone. They want to know what that thing is and why it's following us." Smiled, "Tell them it's a friend." The dragon had grown stronger during the 3-day journey. Its scales now shone with deep colors that shifted like aurora lights. Its movements were smooth and powerful, showing none of the weakness that had plagued it before. Freedom from pain had transformed the creature. Had worked to establish a communication system with the dragon. Using light patterns and simple symbols, they could now exchange basic ideas. It was not language, not truly, but it was a start. The dragon had told them its name, or rather, it had shown them the symbol its kind used, a spiral of light that meant something like hope in darkness or the last star. Had it too, the old Korean word for star. The dragon seemed to like that. "New control is demanding we stop and submit to inspection," said. "Tell them we'll cooperate fully, but tell them to keep their distance from. The dragon won't hurt them unless they attack first. They're not going to like that. They'll learn to like it. The landing was complicated. The Moonlight Wanderer touched down at the main spaceport, surrounded immediately by security forces, remained in orbit, circling the moon like a watchful guardian. Its presence caused panic at first. People screamed and ran for shelters. Defense systems powered up. But the dragon made no aggressive moves. It simply watched, waiting to see if the humans it loved would be safe. And his crew were taken to the colonial administrator's office. The woman in charge was named Lee, a veteran of frontier politics with sharp eyes and a skeptical nature. "Let me understand this," she said slowly. "You found a dying alien dragon, you performed surgery on it, and now it's decided to follow you around like a pet." "That's the simple version, yes," replied. "And you expect me to believe this?" Stepped forward and placed the alien book on the administrator's desk. "This is a record of the dragon species. It contains their history, their biology, their technology. Experts can examine it. They'll see it's genuine." Administrator Lee stared at the book. It pulsed with soft light, its pages shifting even as she watched. "Even if I accept all of this," she said, "what do you expect us to do? We can't house a creature that size. We can't feed it. We don't even know what it eats." "You don't need to do anything," said. "Doesn't need help anymore. It needs purpose. For centuries, its kind protected travelers in space. That's what it wants to do again." "Protect travelers how?" As if answering the question, alarms suddenly blared throughout the building. Checked his communicator. Pirates. 3 ships just dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the system's edge. They're heading for the colony. Pirates were a constant threat on the frontier. Colonies like New had limited defenses. Raids happened regularly, costing lives and precious supplies. Administrator Lee turned pale. "We can't stop 3 ships. We barely have enough weapons to discourage one." "You won't need weapons," said quietly. He walked to the window and looked up at the sky. Far above, a dark shape was moving, had sensed the threat. The dragon had been waiting for this moment. In orbit, the 3 pirate ships entered sensor range and immediately detected the dragon. Their confusion was clear from the chaos of their radio communications. They had never seen anything like this. They didn't know what to do. Then acted. The dragon uncoiled itself and shot toward the pirate ships with terrifying speed. Its body blazed with light, making it look like a comet of living fire. The pirates tried to run, but they were too slow. Didn't kill them. It didn't need to. The dragon wrapped itself around the lead pirate ship and simply squeezed. Not hard enough to destroy, but hard enough to crumple the engines, to shatter the weapons, to leave the ship drifting and helpless. The other 2 pirates watched their leader fall in seconds. They didn't even try to fight. They ran. Let them go. The message had been delivered. This system was protected now. This colony had a guardian. Administrator Lee watched all of this from her window. Her hands were shaking. What is that creature?" "That's," said simply, "that's our friend." Word spread quickly. Within days, every colony on the frontier knew the story. An alien dragon had been found. It had bonded with humans. It was protecting them. Ships began to report, appearing beside them in dangerous territory, escorting them through asteroid fields, driving away pirates and predators. The dragon never asked for anything. It never demanded payment or praise. It simply appeared when needed and vanished when its work was done. Some people were afraid. They called the dragon a monster, a threat waiting to happen. They demanded it be destroyed before it turned on humanity. But most people felt differently. They told the story of the original astronaut, the one who had helped a wounded dragon centuries ago. They added it to the story of Captain Park and his crew. They called it the human legacy, this chain of kindness that reached across time and space. In bars and homes and ships throughout the frontier, people raised glasses to absent heroes, to the astronaut whose name was lost, and to the dragon that remembered. And they wondered what the universe would be like if all beings treated each other with such kindness. 3 months after the events at New, the Moonlight Wanderer left port with a fresh cargo and a repaired hull. The crew had become famous, though they didn't care much for fame. They just wanted to do their jobs. But their jobs had changed. Now when they flew through dangerous space, a shadow flew with them, was never far, watching over them with ancient eyes and infinite patience. Sometimes the dragon would swim close enough that could see its patterns, those beautiful lights that spoke of joy and purpose renewed. On one such night, floated at the observation window, watching his friend dance among the stars. Joined him, "You're thinking deep thoughts again." "I'm thinking about legacy," he admitted, "about what we leave behind." "And what conclusion have you reached?" He was quiet for a moment. Humans talk about their legacy all the time. We build monuments, we conquer places, we write our names on everything we touch. And none of that matters. Not really. What matters is how we treat people, how we treat creatures, the small kindnesses that we don't even remember but others never forget. Nodded slowly. That astronaut 200 years ago probably never knew their kindness would save a species. They just did what was right. Exactly. They were probably scared and tired and alone, but they saw something in pain and they helped. No calculation, no expected reward, just basic human decency. And now there's a dragon protecting human ships because of it. Makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other kindnesses are echoing out there in the universe? What other debts are waiting to be repaid? Smiled, something she did more often now. "I think you've become a philosopher, Captain. I think I've just learned to pay attention." Outside, rolled through space with pure joy. Its lights pulsed in complex patterns that the humans were slowly learning to understand. The dragon was saying something. "What is it telling us?" asked. Studied the lights. After months of practice, he could read some of the simpler messages. "It's saying, family, it's calling us family." His eyes grew wet. "Well then, I suppose we are." The Moonlight Wanderer sailed on through the darkness, small and fragile and impossibly brave. Beside it swam a creature from legend, bound by chains stronger than steel. Chains of kindness, chains of trust, chains of memory that would not break. Somewhere, perhaps, other dragons still slept in forgotten corners of the galaxy. Other wrecks drifted near dying stars. Other signals called out to any human who might hear. And somewhere new, other humans would answer, because that was what humans did when they were at their best. They helped, they healed, they remembered. They looked at monsters and saw friends. They looked at the void and saw hope. They looked at strangers and saw family. This was humanity's true legacy, not their weapons or their technology or their empires, but their capacity for impossible kindness. And out in the darkness, across the vast cathedral of space, the dragons remembered. They would always remember. Because humans, for all their faults, had once shown them that kindness exists. And that was enough. That was everything. Watched his dragon friend dance among the stars and smiled. The universe was cold and dark and dangerous, but it was also full of wonder, full of connections waiting to be made, full of debts waiting to be paid. And as long as there were humans willing to help, willing to hope, willing to reach out across the impossible distances between species and stars, those connections would be made. One kindness at a time. One moment at a time. One human at a time. The dragon sang its silent song of joy. And the humans, small and fragile and stubbornly hopeful, sang back. Together, forever.